This is CBC Here and Now.
After years of bickering, a labor expert is going to look under the hood to see if improvements can be made to the system that sets prices in this province's fishery.
Well, we've been looking for improvements to this system for some time.
The public must be sick and tired of watching this process unfold every summer, every spring. It comes up just like the grass.
I'll have those details coming up.
Coming up on Here and Now this evening, we're at Cape St. Mary's. Around us, there are about 1,000 seabirds, gannets, turs, razorbills, puffins. Some of these birds have been dying. Thousands of birds have been found along the coast on beaches. There's some concern about the health of this colony. We'll have more later.
Good evening, I'm Carolyn Stokes. Well, some relief at the pumps this morning with gas prices dropping by 6.4 cents a litre, bringing the price down below $2 on parts of the island. Drivers can expect to pay around $1.95 on the Avalon Peninsula and just below the $2 mark in Burin, Springdale, and the West Coast. Other parts of the island are still just over $2 per litre. In Labrador, with the decrease, motorists will pay $2.35 in the Straits and $2.01 in parts of Western Labrador. Nearly all other fuel types have decreased in price as well. Diesel dropped by 1.4 cents per litre. Furnace, stove, and heating oil decreased by 1.2 cents per litre. We have an update on the cyber attack that threw Newfoundland and Labrador's healthcare system into chaos last fall. Government officials have been tight-lipped about what happened, refusing to say whether it was a ransomware attack or who was responsible. But there is new information about how many people in the province had their privacy violated. Rob Antle has the details.
Medical procedures were delayed as the cyber attack paralyzed the healthcare system, knocking out access to patient records, lab results. Information was stolen, and the news got worse in March as the scope of the data breach got bigger.
Over 200,000 files were taken from a network drive at Eastern Health's IT environment, and a portion of that may contain patient information and employee information.
A review was launched to determine how many people could be impacted.
Well, we expect the number could be large, could be thousands of individuals at the end of the day between staff and patients, but that'll become clear as we do the work over the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Those weeks have passed. Eastern Health now says that 37,800 individuals have been notified so far that their personal information was accessed. That's roughly 1 in every 13 people in the province. This expert says the breach underscores the importance of strong defenses for IT operations.
The harder you make it really for attackers to compromise your systems, the lower it is for these cyber attackers to want to breach us.
Lee Kim says those caught up in this should keep an eye on their medical and financial records.
You just need to be a little bit extra diligent.
To help with that, the province is offering free credit monitoring and identity theft protection services. So far, more than 21,000 people have inquired about signing up. Meanwhile, Eastern Health officials say their investigation of the files linked to the breach is continuing, and the number of people affected could grow even more. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
They always want their cake and eat it too. That's the problem with the model, and I think it's time to review that.
Ultimately, these companies are setting prices to maximize their margins, and that is what we're seeing play out, and the only thing that has probably prevented that is this independent panel.
Well, that's just a sampling of the war of words over how prices are set in the fishery. After chaos in the shrimp and crab fisheries, the government has hired a labor specialist to investigate this annual problem and possibly come up with a solution to a very thorny and adversarial model. Terry Roberts has that story.
The Labour Minister is entering some rough waters, trying to find a way to bring some order to the fishery.
We've been working on this for about 3 months with both parties.
An early morning news release announcing a review of the controversial system used to determine the price paid to harvesters for their seafood landings.
I'm not going to prejudge what the process is, but both parties have expressed concern. So that's what precipitated the change, this ability for us to do this review now.
This is what it's about, the Standing Fish Price Setting Panel. 3 members and some alternates government appointed, meant to step in and settle price disputes when the Association of Seafood Producers and the Fisheries Union are unable to agree. And lately, the panel has been busy. Under current rules, both sides have to submit a final price offer. The panel has to select one of those prices, binding on both sides. Strikes and lockouts are not allowed. It's long been a source of tension, but this year the industry is dealing with unusually volatile markets, and the friction is causing sparks. So in a rare show of solidarity, a review is being welcomed by both sides, with the union calling for more transparency in the price-setting process.
Well, we've been looking for improvements to this system for some time. More information on the actual prices, more information on the actual markets, which should get both the companies and harvesters closer together and have less disagreements. And, you know, this is something that we would welcome.
Processing companies say a refresh is long overdue.
There's something wrong when every time the panel makes a decision, one party or the other, usually one, criticizes vociferously the decision. If we don't buy because the numbers don't make sense and we can't make money, they man the blockades.
The review will be led by former Labour Relations Board Chairman David Conway. All sides say they're eager to participate, with the union saying processors are doing everything possible to drive down prices and need to be kept in check.
We've seen, for example, recently in shrimp, where fishermen have to sail by the plants here to go get $1.45 in Nova Scotia and Quebec, while here companies were offering only 90 cents.
While processors say they stand to lose as much as $100 million from this year's crab harvest.
And at the end of the day, one has to hope we get a better model or a better way. There has to be a better way than this.
The review is scheduled to be concluded this fall, with any changes to the fish price-setting system expected to be ready for next season. All with the goal of trying to eliminate the chaos that's dominated the fishery year after year. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, as interest rates rise, so does the cost for the Newfoundland and Labrador government to borrow money. This year alone, the province needs to borrow about $2.7 billion. Less than a year ago, a 10-year bond cost the province about 2%. The rate it's getting this month is almost double that at 4%.
Consumed with that, if I can say that, in the Department of Finance and within government, because we know the impact that has on our budgets. So yes, I would say that now that interest rates are rising, we're doubling down and making sure that we're very focused on that. But we have always been, because that's how we get stronger in the province and more sustainable in the province, is by doing that, is by being very fiscally responsible, and especially as rates rise.
And coming up in less than half an hour, you can see Peter Cowan's entire interview with Finance Minister Siobhan Coady on the impact of interest rates.
Well, it is getting warm out there today, especially once that sunshine came out. That area of low pressure responsible for some of that cloud cover earlier today has moved off and turned into an absolutely gorgeous day. We do have some cloud cover moving in for Lab City, or Lab West really, over the next couple of hours, and some showers will move in for you as well. But this is being accompanied by a pretty hot and humid air mass as we head through the next couple of days. So we're going to start to see that heat build tomorrow. We're already seeing heat warnings well to the west over the maritime provinces, and as we head through Saturday into Sunday, the heat is going to continue to build and that humidity is going to build as well. It looks like it'll stick around as we even get into Monday and Tuesday. So let's take a look at the temperatures over the next couple of days for the central region. We're talking 28 to 30 degrees, and along with that, some humidity. So Environment Canada has issued a heat warning for central and northeastern Newfoundland. Temperatures are going to rise as well further east. I'll get into the full details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, at his news conference in Nova Scotia today, the Prime Minister commented on the controversy swirling around Hockey Canada. The organization is dealing with the fallout from its handling of a sexual assault allegation against members of the 2018 World Junior team. It settled with the accuser out of court. It has also come to light that the organization has been using a fund maintained by membership fees to settle sexual assault claims. Justin Trudeau says Hockey Canada needs, quote, a real reckoning.
Step in the right direction, but Hockey Canada needs to do an awful lot as an organization to gain back the trust of Canadians. Their behaviour over these past years, and indeed over these past months, has been not worthy of an organization that embodies so many hopes and dreams for young Canadians.
Well, a man who splits his time between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland is wondering why the monkeypox vaccine isn't available on the East Coast. In larger cities, vaccinations have targeted men who have sex with men. David Gozine couldn't get the vaccine locally, so he flew to Montreal. While no cases have been publicly identified in this province, he says health officials should be proactive.
I have some big questions. I wonder why we're not being proactive in public health on the East Coast and other parts of Canada that are, in the sense of the greater scheme of Canada, considered rural. You know, it's hard to think that Halifax is considered rural. And it's hard to think that we're not, when we have a very available option, that we're not saying, here's a very vulnerable, specific group that we can outline that is being more affected by this than others. Here's our response to this. Why aren't we coming to community areas in Halifax, in major cities within Atlantic Canada and other parts of Canada that aren't receiving this vaccine, and offering it to those members of those communities?
Testing is underway to figure out what's killing birds on the Southern Avalon. The suspect is avian flu. The broadcast's Todd O'Brien visited Cape St. Mary's today to see the situation firsthand.
It's been about 2 weeks since dead and dying seabirds have been showing up here at this colony and along the coast on beaches such as the ones in St. Vincent's and Point Lance. It's thought that there are thousands of dead birds that have washed up. A seabird biologist tells us that for every bird you do find on the beach, there could be 6 to 10 out in the ocean. We don't have confirmation as of Thursday, but it's suspected that it could be avian flu, I guess.
Yeah, no, but it's never come back yet. There's no positive yet, so I don't know. It'll soon be back. It seems like that's what it is, but we don't know for sure. So
I guess it is a bit of a worry, as we've seen in the Magdalen Islands and other parts of Canada.
No, big time. Listen, if there's places lost 50% of their birds, so we hope. Now, 4 days ago there was only 20 dead gannets at the top of the sea stack, and today there's still only 20 dead gannets at the top of the sea stack. So hopefully that's a good thing. I don't know how long it takes it to spread. Like I said, I don't know that, but hopefully it don't spread too much. Hopefully we don't lose a lot.
And you know, I come out here only occasionally. You're here every day, so how does it feel to see these birds die like that?
Yeah, no, it's not good, because nothing we can do for them. That's all we can do now is watch, keep numbers, talk to CWS, talk to the university, Bill Matavicki, and talk to head office, and just keep track of the numbers. That's it.
Peter, can you tell us what we're looking at here?
They're moors, that's what they're called, and that's the young moor.
What do you got over here?
And over here there's it looks like a hound.
What's a hound?
A hound's a small little seabird. They all came short on the night now when the wind was sovereign. Just filled up over here.
And there's a few gannets as well, I saw.
The gannet right there, yeah. The gannet over there.
What have you been seeing in the last week?
There's a lot of dead birds came in shore here. I'd say it's pretty close to 300 here now.
And so these birds, are they just washing up, or are they alive? Are they dead when they get here?
No, some washes up and some comes in alive. They've been alive for about 10 minutes, I guess, and they just rolls over and sand dies.
What do you make of it?
We don't know what to make of it. We don't know. We were talking to the Federal Environment, and they said they're tracing since last winter down Placentia Bay, and they come across the Gulf, hitting the colonies. I know out on Cape St. Mary's, the bird island, there's a lot of dead gannets on that. A lot of dead gannets. The council gave permission here to dig a hole and burn them. So I guess they come. They're supposed to be here now, doing it today.
Who's that? Environment Canada?
Environment, yeah.
So they're supposed to come here and collect and burn?
They're supposed to be here this morning, yeah.
Well, you spent a fair amount of time at sea. Have you ever seen anything quite like this?
Never see anything like this. I fished for 35 years and never see anything like this. Never see it. Here in the winter you get maybe 2 or 3 or 4 early birds, but that's about it.
Well, the workers who build and repair elevators in this province are on strike. About 10 of the workers were picketing outside the new mental health facility being constructed in St. John's, and there was another picket line outside the hospital being built in Corner Brook. Now, this is the fourth time in 2 decades workers with the International Union of Elevator Constructors have gone on strike. Terry French is the president of the association that acts as the bargaining agent for unionized employees in the construction industry. He won't discuss the specifics of the negotiations, but says inflation is a sticking point.
I understand the workers are looking at this 8%. I mean, it frightens the life out of all of us. You know, our members, our contractors, every time we go to buy gas, as it does for the workers. So it's a difficult time for negotiations. But you know, we have to look at, you know, the 5 years out, the next 5 years, and not necessarily the little blip that we're having right now on the radar, as tough as that is.
Workers on the picket line in St. John's declined interviews, and the union hasn't responded to CBC. Now, the strike means no new elevators will be built and no repairs will be done to existing elevators. The last time the union went on strike in 2016, it lasted almost a year, and the strike before that lasted 17 months. So that track record is a concern for people with disabilities and others who rely on access to elevators.
Really, elevators are an essential service for people with disabilities. It's essential that people with disabilities or people with the inability to walk stairs have elevators to equitably and then equally access the spaces in our province. So I would consider elevators as necessary and as very essential to access in this place.
Well, City Council in St. John's recently voted to reinstall and maintain painted bike lanes in various parts of the city. The lines will be painted with bike symbols and bike lane diamonds, and parking will be permitted on one side of the street in most areas. Now, the work won't start for a couple of weeks, and residents will receive a letter from City Hall notifying them about the schedule. The streets include Airport Heights Drive, Viscount Street, Cowan Avenue, Mundy Pond Road, and Campbell Avenue, as well as a portion of Cashin Avenue Extension. City Hall reminds drivers that parking is not permitted in the bike lanes and that offenders will be ticketed. The RCMP unveiled a Fallen Members Fund memory garden at their St. John's headquarters this afternoon. The garden provides a peaceful space for friends, family members, and co-workers to remember those who have served in Newfoundland and Labrador and have since passed away. Patio stones are engraved with the names of fallen employees who are either from here or served within the province.
Welcome everyone to the official unveiling of the Fallen Members Fund memory garden. The Memory Garden is a very welcomed and beautiful addition to the RCMP property. We are pleased to avail of such a lovely space for reflection and honouring memories. We hope it brings comfort to those families and friends of employees we've lost over the years.
It's important to note that this is not a memorial. A memorial is for those who were served their country and killed on duty. This is a memory garden, and it was built so people could come out if they're stressed, if they just want to sit in the sun and get away from work for a minute, to come out and sit here and look down and go, I worked with her, I know him, and to talk about all our friends. And it's also to keep their names alive. As long as these names are here, all these people will continue to live with us. And it's a place for families to come, for parents, for children, for grandparents to come and see their loved ones and know that there's honor. They served their country and they deserve this honor.
My mother was a public service member of the RCMP for over 35 years. She was an avid gardener, and she passed that love on to gardening down to all of her 4 daughters, of which I'm one, and I honestly couldn't think of a more fitting tribute than to have the memorial garden.
Well, my father was a ranger and switched over to the RCMP in Newfoundland. And growing up with the RCMP, I guess it was in my blood, so I joined also. I was in the first female troop in '74 that joined the RCMP. There's all kinds of memorials for members that died in service, but this is for everybody. Everybody is the same. And it's a great place to come. There's a lot of friends' names there that I remember over my 30-odd years service.
I think, the fact that we can come here and have a dedicated space to kind of celebrate, what they put into the service, I think it's just fabulous. It's a really nice place to come and remember.
It gives you goosebumps. It makes you feel proud because Dad thought the world of the RCMP, and it's just another little thing to hang on to. A lot of good memories with the people that you worked with.
If she is looking down, she couldn't be happier. Yeah.
Well, the dew points are starting to climb, already sitting around 16 degrees in St. John's. Those numbers are going to feel much warmer than that, which means humidity returns. I'll get into the full details coming up. All right, before we get into the weather, Ashley, while the sunshine has been welcomed, it's here, it's definitely causing some problems for the rest of the country. Yeah, sweltering summer temperatures have prompted another round of heat warnings in a number of provinces. Warnings are in effect in large areas of Ontario and Quebec, as well as PEI, Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. Temperatures are expected to reach or exceed 30 degrees in some places.
That is hot, and for some that might sound like a great thing, but when you factor in the humidex, those temperatures jump to above 40, which is not comfortable, I would say.
Absolutely.
And lots of warm temperatures here as well.
Yeah, so those heat warnings have extended now and are including parts of Newfoundland, rather. Let's take a look at where those heat warnings are. So you can see they concentrated towards southern Ontario into Quebec, all of the Maritimes basically, except the easternmost point, and then across Newfoundland. So we'll just zoom in there. Pretty much anywhere from the Green Bay, White Bay area through the interior and then towards Gander and Bonavista North. Temperatures are expected to reach between 28 and 30 degrees. You add that humidex in, it's more like 34 to 38. And this will start on Friday, continue through Tuesday. And even through the overnight, minimum nighttime temperatures only going down to about 16 to 18 degrees. So if you do not have air conditioning, the best thing to do, keep your windows closed and your blinds closed, and then you can open them up at night. You don't want to let all that hot, humid air in through the daytime. So certainly a long stretch of weather. Now, I am anticipating that will likely spread further east as we head through the weekend, because those temperatures are going to move right along with it. So that is including the northern Avalon. So taking a look at the temperature today, we're already starting to see some of that heat through central, 25, 26, 27 degrees in Terra Nova. And then temperatures, although a little bit cooler along the south coast, still 19 degrees in Burgeo today, 22 in Port aux Basques, and then those temperatures up across Labrador. Much different story the further north you go. 8 to 10 degrees is your daytime high today, and then between 19 and 21 for the western half of the Big Land. So factor in that humidex, because this is when we're going to start talking about these, and they're really, I mean, we've been talking about 30 humidex around there, 31, 32, but this will be the hottest air as we head through the summer so far, anyway, through central. So right now it's feeling like 28 in St. John's, 29 in Gander, and then a little less as you head towards the west coast, feeling more like 25 in Corner Brook right now. So taking a look at the big picture, area of low pressure moving offshore, beautiful afternoon, but we do have another area of low pressure moving in, and that's bringing some cloud cover up across Labrador, at least the western portion. So you're looking at the chance of showers as you head through the evening hours tonight. Otherwise, pretty clear across the island, just a few clouds sticking around, but that will clear as we head through the evening hours tonight, and then a beautiful night expected. So it's a good time to open up the windows and clear out the heat that we've been seeing for the last couple of days. As far as the future tracker goes, showing that timeline pretty well. We'll see those showers develop tonight for Lab West, which may be a bit heavy at times, and then head towards central Labrador as we get into the morning hours. And we could also see the chance of some thunderstorms with this as well. And then that'll head towards the coast as we get to the afternoon. Most of Friday actually looking pretty nice, but we will see some showers develop into the evening hours and overnight, and then some shower activity expected for Saturday as well. So with these warm temperatures, the showers will bring a bit of relief at times across the island. And then as we get into the evening hours, things should clear out right across the board, but another round of showers and potential thunderstorms moving in for Labrador. Taking a look at the temperatures for tonight, you should be sitting somewhere between 11 and 16 degrees under generally light winds. Same thing as you head towards the west coast. Labrador staying around 13 degrees for Lab City tonight, single-digit lows along the coast as you head through the day. Now taking a look at the temperatures for tomorrow, so we're going to start to see the warm air really move in, 26 degrees for St. John's. The winds will generally be light through the day as well. We may see some areas reach even higher than that along the Avalon, but as we head towards central, that is where the warmest air should be. We're talking between 28 and 30 with those humidex values feeling like the mid-30s tomorrow, and then even towards the west coast, we will see that. Now along the south coast, unfortunately, you're in that onshore flow, so areas of potentially some fog, but also cooler temperatures. So Burgeo 17 degrees and then some showers for you. And then as we head towards Labrador, Much cooler along the coast again tomorrow, 8 to 14 degrees expected, and then that risk of some thunderstorms mainly for Lab West, but you may see some later on in the day as you head towards central Labrador as well. You'll notice a wind shift from the south to the west as the day goes on as well. So we'll talk about the long range forecast when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, if you're looking for a way to celebrate a birthday or some other special occasion, here's a weird idea. Immerse yourself in slime. A venue in New York is dedicated to the gooey substance, and it attracts people from all walks of life, especially kids, of course. One young visitor was delighted to celebrate her 10th birthday there recently.
I love slime. That's just me, but my dad hates it, so like probably wasn't the most fond experience for him.
The Slow Moo Institute has attractions ranging from a slime wall and a giant slime lake to a glow-in-the-dark slime cave. Co-founder Sarah Schiller says the Institute focuses on everything related to sensory play, and that includes slime as well as kinetic sand and various other compounds. Slow Moo opened its doors in 2019. Kind of reminds me of You Can't Do That on Television, that old show. We'll have more news after the break. Money it borrows is also going up. This year, the province needs to borrow about $2.7 billion. Less than a year ago, it was paying about 2% for a 10-year bond. In the March budget, it expected interest to be higher, pegging it at about 3.5%. But right now, a 10-year bond costs the Treasury 4% a year. So what does that mean for the province? Here Now's Peter Cowan met up with the finance minister to find out.
Certainly in the short term, and we carry about $1.17 billion in 30, 60, and 90-day T-bills, that short-term interest rate is based on the overnight Bank of Canada rate. So that's risen, and of course that does have impact obviously on how much money then we have to pay back in interest. And so we are monitoring this very, very closely. We are concerned obviously to see rates rising, and it impacts people's mortgages and their borrowing as well. But there is a concern, of course, not just in Canada, but around the world, and the rising cost of living. And so one of the levers that the central banks use is, of course, interest rates to try and cool the economy. But you know, we look at our borrowing program very broadly. We're going to borrow about $2.7 billion this year. $2.7 billion. So there's going to be some in the long term, like 30-year, some in 10 years, some in 5-year. And those longer term rates are based on the bond markets. And they've changed and they've gone up, but not as significantly as some of the changes in the overnight rates.
But if you look even, for example, a year ago, the rates that you were getting in the bond market was, less than 2%. Now you're looking at 4%. So that obviously must have a big impact then on the amount of interest you're paying on that $2.7 billion that you need to borrow.
Well, certainly in budget of this year, we would have put in, I think, an extra $50 million, close on 50. I think it was actually $47 million because of, additional borrowing and changes to the market rate. So we did budget for additional costs to the cost of borrowing. We recognize that, but one of the things that we're very focused on in the province is lowering our cost of borrowing. We're spending about $1 billion a year. $1 billion a year. So we have to, really focus on how do we bring down that cost of borrowing? How do we make sure we have the right mix when we're out in the bond markets? Either short-term or long-term borrowing. How do we lock in the right interest rates? I mean, we've seen, this is not a historic high or anything for interest rates. We've seen interest rates higher. If you go back, 10 years ago, interest rates were higher than they are now. Back in 2008, 2009, for example, they were higher. Even a couple of years ago in 2019, for example, interest rates were just under 2%. So this is not too high. It's just how quickly they've risen from 0.25% in March to 2.5% today. So it is a concern. Certainly has impact on households, and it does have impact on our Treasury as well.
When you were budgeting earlier this year, you were expecting the rate you pay to be about 3.5%. We're now up over 4%. So what impact does that have on the cost of borrowing, and how much more is the province going to end up having to pay in interest than it was expecting?
Well, certainly we haven't finished our borrowing program for the year, so I couldn't tell you. We forecast it at 3.5%. That's just the forecast. We don't stick to that. That's what we understood overall the rates that we would be charged this year. That's overall what we thought it would be. We are still within our budget, but we've only borrowed approximately $350 million of the $2.7 billion that we will put in the markets this year. We're waiting to see when we need to put it in the market, and then at what price we can get it. The longer term rates haven't increased as much, as I said, as the shorter term rates. So we're looking at how much we place in those longer term rates. How do we rate swap? Is there higher rate debt that's turning over that we can rate swap and get a lower rate? So all of that is part of our team, and we've increased and bolstered our team within the Department of Finance because we're very focused on lowering that cost of borrowing.
As interest rates start to rise, does this change the balance for you as finance minister when you're trying to figure out, can we take on more debt? Does this make you sharpen your pencil and say it's now become more urgent for us to get our borrowing down as interest rates start to rise?
Well, we certainly, this is something that we're very focused on and have been, even before rates were starting to rise, is making sure that we're not borrowing, for our day-to-day operations. As you know, we've been borrowing every single year to pay, you know, for our funds for that year. So we spend more in a year than we actually earn more in a year. That's why we're very focused on bringing down our deficit, which is what we spend more than what we earn in 1 year. So bringing down that deficit and then focusing on our debt, because as I said, we're spending $1 billion a year. That's not paying off debt. That's just paying off the interest on the debt. And if you think of your household income, I mean, we spend, the most we spend is on healthcare, the second most is on education, third most, and sometimes the second most is on the cost of borrowing. So we're very focused on how do we make sure that we focus on bringing down the cost of our debt, how do we ensure that we have balanced budgets, and how do then we start to pay off that debt? Because all of that contributes to, imagine if we had that $1 billion and we can reinvest it in programs and services for the people of the province. That would be a lot better than having just to spend it on the cost of borrowing.
We're getting back to basics. Whether you want to grow lettuce or lavender, we're going to show you how to plant in containers with Dan Rubin. That's coming up. So today we're going to talk about the basics of container gardening. So if you're looking to grow something like this, your own lettuce in containers, some flowers or other vegetables, we're going to show you exactly how to do it. And I'm here with a garden educator, Dan Rubens. So where do we start?
Well, I'm very happy to do this, and as an example of what we grow here on our deck, even though we also have a large garden with raised beds, we grow vegetables and we grow herbs and we grow flowers. So it's functional and it's beautiful at the same time. And the obvious thing is, well, what can you use as a container? All kinds of buckets, barrels, food containers that are large can be used, provided that they have holes in the bottom. Drainage and rich soil are the keys. What do you put in the bottom of the pot?
Yes.
And the answer is...
You can't just fill it with soil.
You can indeed, and it actually drains better.
Okay.
But a lot of times you want to make your pots lighter and use less soil for what you're growing. So you can use foam chips.
That's just like styrofoam that you break up if you
Exactly.
get something online.
Shipping packaging, broken bits of pots or stone or gravel. Corks and they hold a bit of water in the bottom, but the idea is that you want the bottom to drain well, and that's why you put the loose stuff in the bottom for drainage and to make it lighter weight. We're going to fill this container, which we're going to plant, with soil. So I have two kinds of soil. I have compost, and this is planter's mix, which is basically peat. Okay. So you put a scoop of the soil in and a scoop of peat, and so on and so forth. It's so good for your health to touch the soil that I'm going to use my hands. That's my excuse. Scoop of that, a scoop of that. We're going to fill this pot up because it's going to pack down a bit. And then you get to do the really fun part, which is to mix these together.
Okay.
Go to it. Just,
sure.
Yeah. So now we've got our soil in our container. And for today, I prepared several things to plant. And one of them is going to be sunflowers. And if you make a little hole, deep hole in the middle, we're going to plant these down in there, right? Poke them gently down, and then we'll put the soil around it. So now we've got your sunflower in the middle. And in addition, we're going to plant some marigolds. Here's the third thing we're going to plant. We're going to plant these in the four corners, and these are sweet peas. So what's going to happen in this pot is that the sunflowers are going to grow tall, the marigolds are going to surround it and protect the whole thing from bugs, and then these sweet peas are going to kind of flop over and trail. So here's my watering can full of water, and I'm going to add some plant food to that. I'm going to use this plant starter mix 10-52-10, which is very strong compared to bagged fertilizers. So we only need a little scoop of this stuff. So I'm going to put this in the water, a scoop of that, and I'm also going to put magnesium in the form of Epsom salts.
Oh, interesting.
Which are very inexpensive to buy, especially in bulk like this at the big box store.
What does the Epsom salt do?
It adds magnesium, which plants need, because in addition to nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, there's a whole range of micronutrients that plants need that are found in chemical form, or even better in ocean materials like seaweed and fish waste. So I'm just putting a little pinch of this in there.
And you want to do this because it helps the roots maybe settle
Yeah, the
into
roots have to be
soil?
firmly in contact with the soil. That's great. So they don't dry out. So the key to watering is not to water too much, but to start off, here's our flower planter ready to set out on the deck. And all over our yard, there are beautiful examples of container growing. There are planter boxes. There's, of course, the raised beds, which are kind of like huge containers in themselves. But also, as you'll see in the greenhouse, we're growing vegetables in containers.
Okay, let's go have a look at that. So we're here in your greenhouse, lots of containers here. Can you show us what you're growing?
Yeah, container gardening in a greenhouse allows you to grow vertically. So for example, all of this basil is growing in hanging pots. I have a fig tree over my head here that's actually forming figs that we'll be able to eat, and that's here all year round. But the annual plants include these cucumbers that are already forming flowers and cucumbers. peppers of various kinds, sweet peppers and hot peppers, melons, eggplant, and in the ground we have tomatoes and celery growing. So by using containers here and by stacking them, we get to have multiple levels within the same enclosed protected space.
And Dan, you have a couple more things to show us, plants that really should be in containers, and I've made this mistake before. Just show us what you have here.
Yes, we all have. I planted comfrey in my garden once, and oh my God, I never got rid of it after that. I was always fighting with it. So there are invasive plants that you really want to have contained so that they don't spread too much. Here are three that I always plant in containers. One is mint, second is horseradish, and a third is comfrey. And they all have their uses, mint for mint tea, horseradish because I harvest the root and make prepared horseradish, and the comfrey because it's a medicinal plant. It's called knitbone, and it will heal sprains and broken bones.
Interesting. Yeah, I've made the mistake with mint before, where I've planted it just directly in the garden and it just took over.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing to have over the summer for tea and mojitos.
Yeah, and for container gardening, it's really essential that they be planted in containers so they don't spread.
Yeah. Well, Dan, some great examples here. Thank you so much for showing us around.
My pleasure.
Well, staying in the garden, a true symbol of summer here in Canada has been put on the endangered list. The monarch butterfly, one of the most recognizable in the world, is now considered just 2 steps away from extinction by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. CBC's Katie Nicholson has the details.
Pat Concessi has tried to make her Toronto garden as butterfly-friendly as possible. There are purple pollinators and flowers that bloom late into fall.
Because the monarchs need to collect enough nectar to get the energy to make their migration back to Mexico.
And big rocks to shelter them from the wind and keep them warm.
They retain their heat, and butterflies have a challenge with maintaining their body temperature. So I will often come out and find butterflies sitting on the rock.
Despite her best efforts, today, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature added the monarch butterfly to its red list and categorized it as endangered, nearing extinction, because its population has shrunk between 22% and 72% over the last decade, threatened by habitat destruction and climate change. Canada hasn't yet listed the monarch as endangered, but conservation groups have been keeping a close eye on it. Changes in crops and pesticides have eliminated large amounts of milkweed, a vital source for the monarchs.
One of the most important things that has contributed to their decline is the loss of milkweed. And here in Canada, we can help support the monarch butterfly by planting more milkweed and by planting more native species that they depend on.
That helps, but part of the reason the population is in peril is climate change.
Monarch numbers are really tied to variation in year-to-year weather, and that the conditions that are best for monarchs are becoming more rare. So the hot and dry conditions are not good for them.
Butterflies need a source of water, as do many of the flying insects, so I just keep a pan of water there.
Still, Concessi believes every little bit helps, even in a small patch of urban greenery.
Like many people my age, I think about the world that I grew up in and how different the world my grandchildren are growing up in. And if there's something I can do to slow the pace of species extinction, that's something I want to do. Got a butterfly coming right through.
Small changes not just for the butterflies, but her grandchildren too. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, temperatures are really going to start to climb as we head through the weekend. Lots of heat and humidity on the way. But the good news is that through Saturday, we will actually see some showers move through. So it will likely, at least at times, relieve some of that heat across the island. Up across Labrador, you're looking at the chance of showers pretty much across the board at some point or another through the day. And your temperatures are going to be a bit cooler in some cases, particularly through the north. Unfortunately, Nain, you're staying in those single digits, but otherwise, we should actually see those temperatures jumping up into the low to mid 20s for a good chunk of the Big Land. Happy Valley Goose Bay at 25 degrees. Along the Strait, you're in that onshore flow, so temperatures will be a bit cooler for you as well, around 18 degrees. But otherwise, look at these temperatures, 26, 29, even 30 degrees. You factor in that humidity, it's going to feel more like 35 to 38 through most of Saturday. As we head into Sunday, some showers will continue again across the Big Land through the overnight, and then even into the afternoon, still looking at that chance of showers. We may see some showers as well along the west coast, and then as we head into the afternoon, then we'll see even more showers move in as well into the evening hours across the island and along coastal areas of Labrador. Now, as of now, it looks like the Avalon should stay clear, or at least some cloudy periods of sunshine through the afternoon. And if you're running the Tele 10, it doesn't look like a great forecast as far as those temperatures go. We're talking about high 20s with that humidex value feeling into the low 30s, low to mid 30s even. But that'll be through the afternoon. By race time, you're looking at your temperatures into the 20-degree range. For the rest of the island, you're looking at your temperatures into the 30s again through the day with those humidex values much higher than that. And not a whole lot of change in the temperatures across the Big Land. A little cooler for Happy Valley Goose Bay by a degree. 24 degrees will be the daytime high. But take a look at that long-range forecast. High 20s sticking around, and overnight lows 18 degrees. So really not seeing too much in the way of relief into the overnights. By the time we get into Tuesday, though, we're looking at that chance of showers. Similar forecast, even warmer through western and central Newfoundland. But then by Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday, looks like that's when things will get unsettled. And then for eastern Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures in the 20s right across the board as well. Overnight lows into the teens, however, unsettled. And then for western Labrador, same thing. By the time we get to Monday and Tuesday, cloudy periods, or cloudy skies rather, with showers and overnight lows in the single digits. Take a look at this photo. Kayaking in Notre Dame Provincial Park. Kathy shared that great shot. Flat, calm water there. Thank you so much for that. And if you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Another beautiful, peaceful shot.
All the summertime photos are very peaceful.
Love it.
enjoy all that weather, hot weather.
Oh my goodness, and it's going to be so hot overnight too. It's going to be sticky few days coming, I think.
Yeah, the only thing I can say and stress over and over again, lots of water, keep your windows closed, and your curtains closed as well.
Yeah, so. Good advice. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Good night.